this video off by saying I am not a financial advisor. Should you choose to invest in Bitcoin or any other asset, do your own research or seek the advice of an actual financial advisor. Now, last week, the week before that, the past 2 weeks, Bitcoin's been in trading sideways. It's been range bound. It's been trying to make a decision on where it wants to go, and now it seems as though Bitcoin has finally made a decision. If you watched my last week's video, you'll know that these two trend lines here were stating where the local low was and the local high was, and I was pointing out the fact that whichever one Bitcoin breaks first, and with volume, of course, whichever one Bitcoin actually breaks through and stays above or stays below is going to show where it's going to go, and Bitcoin has broken the upper trend line, which was roughly at 74, which was at 74.66, and now that shows that Bitcoin is on a more bullish path as opposed to what it would have happened if it had made a lower low as opposed to a higher high. Actually, as a matter of fact, Bitcoin had actually come down some, but made a higher low. It didn't make a lower low, it made a higher low, and so afterwards it went up towards 7,800 and made a higher high, so that in turn makes this an uptrend, essentially. So Bitcoin has taken the more bullish route of the two routes that I had in mind. Where it's going to go from here, if you saw my last video, I said that if it were to take the higher road, it would, the predictions of anywhere between $9,000 to $12,000, I believe it was where I could see Bitcoin going pre-block halving. It depends on how much momentum it actually gets. It depends on how soon it breaks through the $8,000 resistance area, because you do got to keep in mind on a VPVR, $8,000 is the next, is one of the higher traded areas as far as Bitcoin's price goes. So if we get to that, we've already taken one shot at that area already. We went up to 7,800 and got rejected, and now we're on our way back up, because this area ranges from like 7,800 to like 8,100 or 8,200, something like that. The trading volume is roughly $300 or $400 wide. Now, if we could break above that area, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I can see at this point. It depends on when we break above that area. Depending, if we break above that area a week before Bitcoin's halving, well, I could see 9 to 10,500 maybe. If we break above this area sooner, then within like the next 5 days, then we can maybe see above 10,500 up towards 11,000, maybe even $12,000. Now, there's something else I have to point out, and that is the fact that Bitcoin seems to be holding true with a bump and run pattern. It has made everything, it has formed the bump and run pattern essentially almost perfectly, and it is following through with that pattern, including its breakout here. I also pointed out that there was an Adam and Eve formation here, which was also a bullish sign. So there were a few patterns that were pointing in a bullish direction here. Now, there's the indicators, the MACD in particular, it came close to crossing bearish a couple times here, but Bitcoin's price just bounced back up every time it came close, and it just would not let it cross bearish, and now it is essentially going in a bullish direction. It's spreading apart, it's going upward, and that's good news for the short term as far as the bulls go. Anyway, and yeah, I haven't gotten much sleep recently, so if I fuck up, just bear with me. Now, this indicator right here is the hash ribbon. If you haven't seen it on any other channel yet, then you're going to see it here. This hash ribbon is basically two moving averages of the hash rate. It's a short-term moving average and a longer-term moving average of the hash rate, and it's puts out buy-sell signals depending on what happens. It's got the initial capitulation. It's got minor capitulation, recovered, and then the initial buy signal. And as you can see on the daily, it has put in a buy signal. Now, every time that this has happened in the past, it has resulted in the price action going upward thereafter every single time. Now I'm going to show you examples of this. Okay, first off, we need to make these other two a little bit smaller. Bear with me, I'm trying to do something here. Alright, we're gonna make this a bit smaller too. Now we're gonna zoom out. Let's just deal with the past 2 years, for example. As you can see, we had the capitulation, then the miners' capitulation, and that's where we had that big drop off, and then we had the recovery, and it recovered, and then it put in a hold on. I guess I could do, I guess this needs room to show the buy signal. Okay. And then it put in a buy signal. And once it had a button, once that buy signal was put in, you've seen a nice run all the way from $3,000 to $14,000. Then, of course, okay, now, and then of course we went down in that 7-month-long bear market, and then we had our miners capitulation, regular capitulation. Then we recovered, and it put in another buy signal, and we had another leg up there. Then, of course, the virus came. And we went downhill again. The capitulation happened, and now we have another buy signal. And if you go through all of Bitcoin's history, you'll see that every time this thing has put in a buy signal, there were always, and I mean, this is 100% accurate. This is the only indicator that I've known to be 100% accurate with its buy signals. Every time it's put in a buy signal, there were gains well, not immediately after, but directly after. Like, from there, the price went up. That's basically what happened. The price went up exponentially on quite a few of those occasions. Like, for example, the price here, what, 4x'd? Almost 5x'd? Let's go to the one that was before 2017's run. Right here, we had the buy signal for the 2017 famous bull run all the way up to $20,000. This indicator is called the hash ribbon. So if you want to look it up on TradingView, there's no cost for it or anything. That's, you can customize it to have the signals show whatever you want it to show. Right now it's on default showing circles, but some people have them showing diamonds, triangles, squares, X's, whatever else. But yeah, that's basically the gist of that. So the fact that this has put in a buy signal now, to me, suggests that there is a high probability that we are going to see a decent amount of upside from here. Now, do keep in mind that after the block halving, there will likely be some sort of collapse. I can't have an exact measurement on how far it will drop, but when the block halving happens, there will be miners that will no longer be profitable, and so they will have to shut down their mining rigs. They will capitulate, and this will cause a drop in the price. But from there, it's likely going to recover, and over the course of the next year or two, it's going to likely see heights that it has never seen before. So accumulating is your best bet if you do not know how to trade. If you know how to trade these markets, you're likely going to make a lot more money than people who are dollar cost averaging. But dollar cost averaging, even so, will likely make you a good bit of money either way. So yes. Now, moving on. So a few more things I gotta talk about here. First off, the fact, yes, like I said, Bitcoin is going to be heading up over the next course in the next couple of weeks. But do keep in mind, in the short term of the next 24 to 48 hours, we may see a bit of a drop because we may be forming a futures gap sometime over the course of the next couple of hours. It just depends on how far Bitcoin's price goes up. We may already have a futures gap. I haven't looked at the futures chart, but just in case, if we do form a futures gap, we will likely come back down to fill it, and the price declining to fill that gap may bring us back down to the $7,400 area, confirming that this green resistance has become support, and then we could likely get a bounce from there and then move back up towards $7,800 and potentially breaking 78 into 79 into $8,000. Now, aside from the fact that there's a lot of trading volume in the $8,000 area, you do got to keep in mind that there are two moving averages in this area, the 200 exponential moving average and the 200 daily moving average. The 200 daily moving average being the most important, because a lot of people look at the 200 daily moving average to determine whether an asset is in a bull market or a bear market, and Bitcoin breaking above the 200 daily moving average will be very bullish for them, and so they will likely buy in because of that, thus pushing the price up even further, which is... This is another reason why I think that Bitcoin can reach almost up to $12,000. Hold on. I need to get a drink or something. My voice is like all fucked up. But anyways, that's another reason why I could see Bitcoin's price reaching upwards towards $12,000 is being because of the fact that it will be above the 200 daily moving average soon, and that could bring more, like I said, that could bring more attention towards Bitcoin, and people will buy in because they believe Bitcoin's price is going up. And that will force it up. So, there's one more thing I do got to point out though. If Bitcoin breaks above $12,000 before the halving, if Bitcoin reaches up, for some reason, if Bitcoin reaches up into $13,000, maybe even $14,000, the capitulation that happens afterwards may be less than what it would have normally, because if Bitcoin's above like $13,000, maybe even $14,000 by the halving, which I'm not sure if I could see it going that high, but on the unlikely chance that it does get that high, all miners should be profitable, so there would really be no need for further capitulation. So, although there are people expecting a capitulation to happen, so there will likely be some selling pressure as a result of the halving. Those people thinking that it's going to go down, and it ends up not going down because the price is high enough for everybody to profit. So the Bitcoin price may drop some and then just go upwards, and then there's people that thought the price were going to go down may end up kicking themselves in the ass for doing that. So it depends on what Bitcoin's price is at the time of the halving. If it's anything below $12,000, some Bitcoin miners will be unprofitable and there will be capitulation. If it's above like $13,000, there may not be any capitulation at all. There may be some. I don't know. I think the average price is roughly $6,000 or something like that. The Bitcoin's price has to be above 6,000 profits. $6,000 to be profitable mining. That's like the average price. Now, after the halving, of course, that will double because you'll be getting half the Bitcoin per block mine. So that profitable range will be at the $12,000 area. If Bitcoin's price is less than $12,000, then some people will be unprofitable and have to shut down and capitulate. So it just depends on where Bitcoin's price is at the time of the halving. If it's, like I said, if it's above 13,000 for some odd reason, don't expect much capitulation, other than people thinking that it's going to go down and selling. If it's below $12,000, there will likely be capitulation. I just wanted to make that a point, and so that you all know whether or not to be prepared for a steeper drop or a not so steep drop. If it's below 12,000, it could end up dropping like 10%, 15%, maybe even 20%. But then after that capitulation, after that is over, it's going to be a nice run from there. I mean, it's probably going to be boring at first because Bitcoin does tend to trade sideways after the halving. It doesn't really go up too much. Well, as far as being, it may jump like up 20% here, down 20%, up 50% down. Like, you know how Bitcoin's week-to-week trading is. It could be highly volatile, but as far as extreme moves, I wouldn't expect extreme moves after this capitulation. Actually, you know what? Given the circumstance of what's going on in the world with all the heavy printing, that may not necessarily be true. So scratch that. It's going to depend on a lot of factors, but for what happens after the halving, we may see people pile in after the capitulation. Yeah, just because of the fact that there's heavy printing going on with fiat currencies right now. So I didn't even think about that at first. So yes, do keep that in mind too. But for the halving, below $12,000 or $12,500 or whatever the exact number is, expect capitulation. Above it, don't expect as much. That's the point that I'm trying to get here for at least the halving, at least right at the halving. Afterwards, it kind of remains to be seen because yeah, this is we are technically in uncharted territory with what the world is dealing with right now. So, yeah, let's see if there's any news to look at. Okay, as for the news, massive Bitcoin miner capitulation. Well, like I've said just a little bit ago, this miner capitulation may not be as massive depending on where the price of Bitcoin ends up at the time of the halving. Like I said, 12K and below will result in capitulation. Above 13K, the capitulation is less likely, but there's still likely to be somewhat of a sell-off because of people expecting a capitulation without taking this fact into consideration. But let's move on. Massive Bitcoin capitulation. Bitcoin price after halving. Price skyrocketed. As you can see, there's a lot of news articles going on about the halving now, because the halving is like 15 days away, and so there's going to be a lot of speculation as to what is going to happen. On-chain metric paints bullish Bitcoin price picture. 10K Bitcoin price back in play. And there's another thing you can see is the fact that most of these articles are bullish. So you can see the sentiment is changing in the crypto space. It's not as bearish as it was earlier. I mean, yes, there's definitely still a lot of fear out in the markets. Don't get me wrong, but the crypto market is definitely starting to look up. Oh, the Weiss ratings. Tezos surpasses EOS for the first time in crypto history. Yeah, Tezos, I think it's Tezos and Cardano. Yeah, right here. Tezos and Cardano are ranked higher than Bitcoin and Ethereum because of the technology behind it. I forget exactly what all went into it, but you can Google Weiss ratings, and you'll get all the information on why Cardano and Tezos have been moved up on those ranks. I mean, the technology behind both of those assets. I mean, it's I could see both of these assets going places. That's all I can really say there. They definitely have a chance to put some money in your pockets if you invest in them. Don't take that as financial advice, but that's my personal belief. Now, after 90% crash, Ethereum just printed major cycle bottom fund manager. Yeah, that's another bullish prediction there. Get set for Bitcoin having another halving. An article. Basically, the news is overall bullish and talking about Bitcoin's halving, just because. Billionaire Mark Cuban reveals he owns Bitcoin. I guess he owns like $130 of Bitcoin. And then Peter Schiff had to chime in on that. I remember seeing something about this. Peter Schiff had to chime in on the fact that Mark Cuban only getting $130 in Bitcoin from them selling, them accepting Bitcoin. I guess Peter Schiff saw that as not good or whatever. Oh, my voice is fucked up today. But honestly, none of this really matters to me. It has no effect on Bitcoin's fundamentals, so I don't really care. And Peter Schiff, he's always a bear towards Bitcoin, so. But well, I'm sure you've all noticed this by now, but every time Peter Schiff makes bearish calls on Bitcoin, Bitcoin tends to have bullish price action, so you can see how good he is at those predictions. Anyways, moving on. eBang. What is eBang? Bitcoin miner maker eBang officially files for $100 million US IPO. Oh, this could be interesting. Let's see. Bitcoin miner manufacturer eBang has officially filed for U.S. original price offer. The company is looking to raise up to $100 million by listing its shares either on NYSE or NASDAQ. eBang International, one of the world's largest Bitcoin mining machines manufacturers, has formally filed for an initial public offering in the U.S. The eBang is looking to raise up to $100 million through the offering, according to an F-1 form filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission on Friday. The company looks to offload Class A ordinary shares having a face value of less than a cent per share. China-based eBang intends to list its share either on New York Stock Exchange or Nasdaq Global Market under the symbol EBON per the Form F1. So, yeah, basically, this mining corporation is going to try to get its shares listed on the U.S. stock market. So that could be pretty bullish for this company. And that could also, yeah, well, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. And I can leave a link to this article in the description below, just so you guys can read through this yourself. I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but yeah, I didn't even notice this before now, but I guess, yeah. Oh yeah, that's awesome. What was that other thing? What was that? eBank and Canon rival Bitmain also attempted to go public in Hong Kong, but did not get approval. Late last year, there were reports that Bitmain is also looking to file for a U.S. IPO. That's pretty interesting too. So, be on the lookout for these companies. They may be, for those of you who have investments in the regular stock market, be on the lookout for those too. They might be some good opportunities. So, yeah. Anyways, moving on. Okay, so I have one more thing to go over here, and that is 19 confirmed cases. And that is 2.9 million cases worldwide, which is 500,000 more than from last week. That means, because last weekend we were at 2.4 million, now we're at 2.9 million. Yeah, so that we had 500,000 more cases, roughly, that's estimated. Now, the previous week was 600,000 more cases, so this is 100,000 less, so that does show that there is a slowing in these case counts. Now, the United States case count has reached 939,249. The total deaths worldwide is 203,545. I gotta bring your attention to the daily case count chart, because something here is a little bit disturbing. Previously, we had a peak here towards the end. It looked like it was towards the end of March, because every day after showed less cases than this peak here. But recently, as of 2 days ago, we have broken the all-time high, so that just made a new peak here. And so now the peak is officially April 24th of this year. So that means that this curve is not as flat as we originally thought it was. I mean, we could have been flattening the curve recently, but somebody may have screwed up, or people may be getting too overconfident and they may be starting to relax their efforts towards containment. And as you are aware of, there are places that are relaxing the restrictions, like in the United States, or I don't know what other countries are doing right now, but I know in the United States there are places that are relaxing restrictions, and that may have something to do with this. There is also the fact that there have been protests throughout the United States protesting the lockdown. People getting in groups, no masks, not staying 6 feet apart, not even 3 feet apart. Some of them were like shoulder to shoulder in these protests, and that is, I mean, use common sense. It's not that hard. I don't know why people would do something like that. I mean, I understand that you need an income, you need to be able to put food on your table or whatever, but during a global pandemic, don't do something like that. That's just, if you wanted to protest, you could have at least stayed in your car or stayed away from each other or wore masks. There was nothing else stopping you from doing the protest, but you did it disregarding the fact that there is still a pandemic happening. So that may be one of the reasons why we had this recent spike here, because in the United States, I'm going to show you, this spike is more well defined and it's a bit more drastic, as you can see. Yes, right there is that spike, and as you can see, the new peak for the United States case count is also April 24th. And the previous peak was roughly at the end of March. If we would have stuck with March's peak, that curve could have been going down from here, and we would have had to deal with less and less of this over a shorter period of time. Now, however, I am not so sure, because now the curve is looking more something like this, and we don't know if this is going to be the new peak or if we're going to go up from here. So we do gotta keep that in mind and watch out for that. If you're seeing this video, do what you can to prevent spread. Wear a mask if you have to go out. Stay away from people. Stay at least 6 feet away from people. Wash your hands. And as always, you can look for information about this virus on the CDC's website, the World Health Organization's website. Apparently I made a gesture for this app and it popped up in the bottom corner of my screen for some reason. I don't know why I did that, but whatever. You can look at your state or local government's website. You can look at your federal government's website, your government leader's website. I'm sure they have a website somewhere about this. There's information out there everywhere. If you work, I'm sure that there's information at your job about this virus. There's another thing I've seen recently. CDC has updated their symptoms list for COVID-19, and it includes stuff like loss of taste and smell, and a few others. You should go to the CDC's website and check out that list, and just in case, it's always best to know what could happen should you get this virus. But yeah, the fact that we had this spike recently is that, I mean, personally, that's not looking good. That is not looking good at all. I mean, if it was just one day, if it was just a single day that spiked abnormally, and the rest of the days around it were at lower levels than the previous days here, then yeah, I would have just considered that an abnormality in the trend. But there's a couple days together here that showed higher rates. Actually, I think it looks like 2 of these 3 days have broken the recent all-time high. Yeah, 2 of these 3 days have broken the recent all-time high, making this group is the new peak. So this group, I mean, we can hope that this group is the new peak and it goes down from here, but there's also potential that we go up from here, because like I said, there were people that were out protesting and everything, and of course the restrictions that have been lifting recently, and of course there's people that are relaxing their efforts as well. And until we have a vaccine for this virus is still going to be a threat, and you have to remember that. So I don't think there's anything else that I have to really have to go over today. So with that, yeah, that is all I have for you guys today. I will see you all next time. Stay safe out there.